Hello everyone, welcome back to Code with Beto. In this video, we are going to learn how to effectively use the Expo Linear Gradient library to create beautiful gradients for our application. And as you can see here, we have the demo of what we're going to be building. On the iOS device here, I have light mode, and on the Android, on the right side, I have dark mode, which means this application is going to handle both, which is really nice. Now we have a list of colors, as you can see here. This looks pretty good. And I can switch and toggle between dark and light mode, which is really nice. And when we select one of these gradients, we go to the details screen and we can see the full screen of the gradient. And we can play around with the direction of the gradient. For example, this one is from top to bottom. And I'm putting here the colors that I'm using for this specific gradient. So if I toggle from bottom to top, this is how it looks. We can also do left to right and right to left, and this is how it looks. By default, it's going to be top to bottom. That's the default when we're using Expo Linear Gradient. And the same goes for any platform. So if we select this one on Android, we can also switch. And on top of that, guys, we also are going to be, we can compile this for web and it's going to work as usual. And we're going to learn as well how to handle some of the differences between these platforms. For example, if you pay attention, the gradients header on web, it's white. And if I go back here, it's going to be white as well. But in this case, it's black for iOS. And if I toggle to dark mode, and then let's just go ahead and select Valentine, for example, header is white as well. And let's select this one. This is white. But if I toggle this, this is going to be black, right, in iOS. So these kind of things or styling specific to each platform, we're going to learn how to do that as well for the header in specific. But yeah, just wanted to mention that this is going to work as well for web, and this is how it looks. We're going to be using Expo Router for the navigation. If you want to get the source code for this project, guys, keep in mind all the projects that we create in this YouTube channel are available for free at codewithbeto.dev. If you go to codewithbeto.dev and select the projects, you'll find all the projects that we create in this channel, and you'll find this one specific here. But of course, once I finish recording this video, it's going to be available here. Now, if you want to, come here and quickly grab any piece of code that we've been working on, like for example, the Budget Buddy app, you can just simply go ahead and select this app in specific, and you'll get the video as well, some description about what is this project about. And an important thing is that you also get the dependencies for this specific project, and you can also find the links for download or the GitHub repo. All right, so if you are curious about the colors and all the specifications that we're going to be using in this application, just go to codewithbeto.dev and check out the projects. By the way, once you are here, if you want to become a master in React, React Native, Git, or GitHub, check our courses. We have one for React Native, one for React with TypeScript. This one is more focused on web. We use frameworks like Next.js. And we learn how to integrate payments with Stripe and handle as well server-side logic. And this is Git and GitHub. We're working on this one, so it is available for pre-sale at an amazing price. So I would advise that you check it out if you're interested. Yeah, so now that you know that, let's jump ahead and start building this amazing app. Alright guys, so the first thing that we need to do is create a new Expo app. So I'll just go ahead and inside this project called test, I'll run the command yarn create Expo app. Now we can give it a name. In this case, it's going to be gradients video, and hit enter. This is going to take a couple seconds, so let's wait a little bit. Okay, and the project is ready, as you can see here. So let's go ahead and open this folder in VS Code by saying first cd gradient video. Now that we are inside this folder, I can say code dot to open this in VS Code. Alrighty guys, so here we are in the newly created Expo app. And the first thing that I want to do is install the library that we're going to be using. So let's open the terminal and say npx expo install, and the name of this dependency is going to be called expo linear gradient. This dependency is one of my favorites because it's going to work on web, Android, and iOS, and it's very easy to use it, as well as very extensive. So let's clear this, and now that this is working, we can use Expo. Actually, it's going to be working on Expo Go as well. So let's say yarn start to start the server, and press I to open this application on the iPhone. So here I'll reload so that we have the latest version of this app, which is a newly created one. So we're going to be using Expo Go in this case. And as you can see, this template comes when you create a new Expo app. It comes with the new router, Expo router to handle navigation, which is really nice, where we have home and explore tabs. And we also have some screens inside these tabs, as well as not found and fallback screens. So this is really nice. And then we also have some components that are compatible with dark mode, like theme text and theme view are going to be changing depending on the theme of the device. So if I switch, you can see that the text is going to change to be black, and vice versa. Cool. So now that we have this dependency installed, the expo linear gradient, I want to, we need colors for this application. So I went ahead and asked ChatGPT to generate some colors for these gradients. And I'll just go ahead and copy these gradients.ts. By the way, if you want to get these colors, just go to codewithbeto.dev and check out the project. You can check the source code and just copy paste if you want these colors in specific. So in this case, guys, we're going to be using objects for each gradient that we're going to be displaying. As you can see here, each item is going to contain a name and an array of colors. And one important thing to mention here is that this array of colors can be more than 2 colors actually. It's an array, so you can put as many as you want. Now, another thing to notice is that this is an array of arrays, right? So if I minimize this, you can see that we have a list of lists, and each list is going to have 3 elements. The reason why I'm doing this is because we are going to iterate over each array, and this is going to represent a row, and each row is going to have 3 items, as you can see here. All right. Cool, so this is the data that we're going to be using. Now that we have that, let's go ahead and save this file. I'll close this for now. And the second thing that I want to do is change a little bit my layout of the application. So we have tabs here, but I don't want tabs. I only want one screen. And I'll use this index for my screen. So this index screen, I'll drag it and drop it at the app level. And I'll go ahead and delete the tabs. Now we only have this index, and let's go to the layout. In here, it's where we are specifying the tabs, as you can see here. So instead of having these tabs, I'll change the name to be the index file and hit save. Okay, now let's go to the app and reload. And there we have it. So that was super easy. Now we are using only one screen and we are not able to see the tabs anymore, which is great. Alrighty guys, so the next thing that I want to do is just go to my home screen or index file, and let's work on this one. So let's delete all this code that comes by default. I'll just create an empty tag for now. And inside this empty tag, I'll create a scroll view because I want to have a scroll view to display the gradients. Okay, so yeah, we can actually remove this empty tag and just use the scroll view. And inside this scroll view, I'll iterate over the gradients. So I'm importing these gradients, as you can see there, and we can iterate over each item. So we can name these, if you remember, let's quickly go to the gradients. Let's put these to the right. Each gradient is going to have a row array, and this row array is going to have 3 elements. So first of all, we need to iterate over the rows. So I'll name this one row. And for each row, I want to return a row view. Okay, so let's create a view from React Native. This is going to be my row. Now, inside this view, I can actually access this row array, which would be each one of these elements, right? So I can say row dot map again, because this is an array, and we can map over the gradient, and we can render something. In this case, we need to render the gradient. So for now, let's create a theme text and just display the gradient dot name. Okay, let's hit save. And yeah, it's working. As you can see here on the right, we have the name of the gradients. So that means this is working fine. Let's go ahead and close this view. So I'll delete some of the imports that we are not using. And I want to, style this a little bit and also improve this because I got a warning that I'm not using a key. So the map function will actually return the item, in this case, the row, but we can also access the index of this item as the second argument of this callback function. And I'll name this one row index. Okay, and I can use that index for the key of the view. I'll say row index and hit save. Cool. Same thing we can do here. I can access the index of each gradient. So I'll name this one index and I'll use it here, passing the index. Now, another cool thing that we can do here is that we know that each gradient is going to be an object that will contain name and colors. So we can actually destructure this by using curly braces, and I'll grab the name and colors directly, and we can simply pass the name in here and hit save. All right, so this is much better. We don't have any warnings, and yeah, this is looking fine. Cool. So a couple of things to notice here is that we have, this is going off the screen of the safe area view. And we can actually fix that by adding a simple padding to the scroll view. So let's add a content container style. And I'll say styles.container. Now this container, I need to create it down here, and I'll go ahead and delete these styles that we have here. So let's say container, and this container, it's going to have a padding top of 100. Okay, nice. So I'll actually use 130, and you'll see why in a moment, because I'm going to be using a large header. But a couple of things to keep in mind, guys, is that I only want this padding top for iOS devices. So we can use the platform object that comes with React Native, and we can validate if the platform is an iOS device, then use 130, otherwise just use 0. Okay, and that works fine. And now I'm ensuring that this padding is just for iOS. Very cool. All right, so now let's actually start working on this component, because I don't want to be rendering this text only. So let's go ahead and create a new component. And this component is going to be named gradient item.tsx. Okay, so this gradient item, it's going to return, so let's say export default function. It's going to be named gradient item. And yeah, this is going to return. So because I want to navigate to a new screen every time that we press on this item, I'll render this in a link from Expo router. Okay, and the link is going to allow me to navigate to a screen every time that I press this. So the screen is going to be gradient details screen. Okay, and we don't have this screen yet, so if I just save this, this won't work. But before I finish, I want to have as well a touchable opacity from React Native. okay? And so that we have this pressable feeling, right? And inside this touchable opacity, I want to have a linear gradient from Expo linear gradient. All right, and this is how it looks. So if you can see here, I'm importing linear gradient from the library. And this linear gradient can be a self-closing tag, or as well, we can have elements inside this linear gradient. So in this case, I'll have a text from React Native, and this text will render the name of this gradient, right? And by the way, this gradient is complaining here because it is expecting some properties. Property colors, it's missing. So we need to specify the colors. Now, how do we know the colors? Well, we need to pass those as properties. So let's create an interface for this component. And I'll name this interface gradient item props. And we can define what kind of parameters we're going to pass. So in this case, we need an array of colors. So this is going to be an array of strings. And then we need the gradient name as well, which is a string. Okay, now we can say that this item or this component is going to get these properties here. And then we can destructure the colors and gradient name. Now we can simply come down here, and because we know that the colors is an array of colors, we can just pass them directly here. Cool. Now, as I was mentioning before, this is going to take an array which can have many items, right? Many colors as well. And we can see some examples in a moment, but for now, the colors that we're going to be passing, it's only an array with 2 elements. Got it? All right, sounds good. Now, inside of this text, I can render the gradient name. So let's hit save and let's see how this component looks. So I'll go back to my index, and instead of rendering this theme text, I'll render my gradient item. And then we need to pass the properties, right? Which is colors. So I'll pass the colors, and we also need the gradient name, and I'll say name. Now we also need to provide a key because we are iterating. So the key is going to be the index. Let's hit save, and that's how it looks. So it's looking like this on the right. It's kind of fun, looks not too bad, but we need to fix this. So let's go to the gradient item and let's add some styles down here. I'll set styles equal to style sheet from React Native dot create. This is going to take an object with styles. So I'll create one for the container and I'll give it a flex of 1. Okay. Now this container is going to be this touchable opacity. So let's say style equal to styles.container. All right. So this flex is not doing anything. Let me actually add a flex grow of 1. Okay. And still is not doing anything. I believe it's because we need to specify some things for each row. Yeah, so for each row, this view, I'll specify a style, and I just want to have a flex direction row. Okay, so that's how it looks. Let's go back to the gradient. So if you pay attention, we have only 3 elements for each color, which is what we wanted. Now, we need to specify as well a width for the linear gradient. So before I add this flex grow, let's comment this and let's create a linear or just a gradient style, and let's give it a width of 100. Okay, let's go to the gradient and let's add this style in here. Style from our styles dot gradient and hit save. All right, now this is not doing anything so far, but let's add a height as well of 200. Okay, not doing anything. Let me actually reload. I think I need to reload. Yeah. Cool, so this is how it looks. Now let's add the flex grow. And let me see if I reload. Nothing is happening yet. What I'll do here is say padding of 12 so that we have some spacing for the text. And finally, I want to justify content to the end because I want the text at the bottom, right? Now let me add another style here before I fix the width issue. This is going to be for the text. So the text I wanted to have a color white, and then font weight it's going to be bold, and text align center. Let's go to the text in here and say style equal to styles.text and hit save. All right, so this is looking good, but my width is not working. Okay, so what I'll do is just comment this flex growth for now. And the reason why the styles are not applied is because everything is inside this link component. So the way we can use a link could be without this touchable opacity. But as well, we can have, if we want to have this pressable style every time that I press one item, we can see, that we are pressing it. So that's why we need the touchable opacity. So link has this property to render the pressable as the child. So in this case, I'm saying the pressable won't be the link, just use the children. So if I hit save now this component will be technically invisible, and we are using the touchable opacity as the container at this point. Now this is working. So we didn't need the flex growth. And if I remove the flex, this is how it would look. So we need the flex to grab the all available space on screen. All right, and that's the screen. So let's see what happens if I press the oceanic color. So of course, this page does not exist, but instead of the app breaking, we have this really nice fallback screen that is telling me this screen does not exist, which is really nice. So let's go ahead, and inside the app, I'll create a new screen, and this is going to be gradient details .tsx. Okay, this is how it looks. Now this screen is going to render details about this linear gradient, right? So let's, what I'll do is just copy this index and paste it here to start with this screen, and change, instead of having home screen, we can say gradient details screen. Okay, and I won't be rendering all these items. I do want though a scroll view, so let's leave this scroll view here. And then for now, we can render just a text. So I'll use the theme text, and we can render, the current name that that the user selected. So to access this name, actually, we need to pass it somehow to this screen, right? And the way we do that is by using Expo router parameters. And the way we can pass parameters using Expo router is actually using the link component. And this is pretty cool. So either you can pass the gradient details as a simple string, or you can pass actually an object with specifying the path name, which would be the gradient details screen. But as well, we can specify some parameters. And these parameters are going to be, in this case, the gradient name and the colors. Okay, so let's hit save. So what I'm doing here is basically passing these two variables to the gradient details screen. So if I go to my gradient details, I can access this data using the use local search parameters, which is a hook from Expo router. So let's grab this data here. I'll say params equal to use local search params, and this is coming from Expo router. Okay. So in here, I can say console log params just to see what we are getting. And let's open the terminal. Let's try to navigate. And this is how it looks. Now pay attention, guys. The colors So it seems that this object is being stringified, which means even though we passed an array of colors in here, the colors are coming as a string, okay? So this string, it's not an array anymore. It's just one string with colors separated by comma, okay? So keep that in mind. If we try to iterate over each item or color, this won't work. We will end up iterating over each character because this is a string. So if we go to the gradient details screen, so this is working fine, right? But there's a couple of details that we can improve when we're using the params. The first thing is that if I try to say params.colors, so we do have these colors in here, and this is going to work fine. And I'll just be printing the colors. Then we can also say console log params dot gradient name, but this is hard because I'm typing this literally. I'm not, I'm not getting autocomplete once I press dots. So the correct way to do this is actually typing using a generic. Okay, and if you don't know what is a generic in TypeScript, I would recommend to check out my course, React with TypeScript. We learned the basics of TypeScript there. But basically, a generic looks like this. I'll destructure this type. So basically, we need to specify the type that this is going to return. And I'll say that this is going to be a gradient name of type string and a color of type string. Okay. Remember, colors was an array, but now it's going to be a string. And the cool thing about this is that I can say colors, and now I have this really nice autocomplete once I press the dot. So now that we know that we're getting this data, we can actually use it, or we can have some extra validation in here. Let's say that we didn't pass a parameters. So let's check for gradient name, or let's check for colors. If we are missing any of these things, I'll just return a redirect component from Expo router, and we need to specify where we want to take the user. So I want to take the user to the not found screen. Okay. So that means if I pass something crazy to these routes, we won't break the app, but we just redirect the user to the not found screen. Okay. And to test this out, we can open this in the browser. So let me quickly open the browser just to show you guys. This is a browser. I'll close this app. And to run this on the web, I'll press W here. And this is going to compile the website. Let's wait for a little bit. Okay, that's the website. Now, if I press one of these colors, let me just print here the params.gradient name and hit save. Let's go back. Let me reload. Okay. So if I go back, it seems that this text is white. Yeah. So what I can do is just maybe just quickly change the color just to show you that this is coming. Okay, so here we have the text. This is working. I'll close the terminal for now. Now, what happens if we check the route of this website? So as you can see, we're passing the colors and we're passing the gradient name. But if we try to navigate to these gradient details, and then if they pass, something weird, or they don't pass these gradients, we can just redirect the user to this screen does not exist. So this is what this validation is doing here. Okay, so now that we know that this is working, let me take this out of the way. And yeah, let's continue. Let's test this out on the app. Okay, so in this case, because this is black, we are not seeing it. We're going to fix that in a moment, but now we have this cotton candy color, which is nice. So that means this is working. Okay, so next, I want to configure, my header and my navigation animation. This is not looking really nice. So let's go to the layout, and I want to specify some options for the navigation. Now, this is going to be really interesting because I want to have some validations for web. As you can see, it was breaking on web, but it wasn't breaking on iOS. So we need to be careful when we are adding screen options. So to add the screen options, I'll say screen options in here. This is going to take an object, and we can start saying things like header shown equal to true. Then I'll say header blur effect, which is a blur effect that we will get for iOS. So I'll set this to true. Sorry, this is actually either dark or light or any blur effect that we have in here. So if I hit save, and let's see if I reload the app, if something happens. Okay, so nothing is happening yet. The reason for that is because we need to say header transparent to be equal to true. I believe so. Let's see if I reload. Okay, so we are not seeing anything yet. Okay, it's because I'm setting this option down here. So I'll delete this. And now we are able to see the header and we have the blur, which is really nice. Now, some things to keep in mind. Of course, if I switch to light mode, I want to switch as well this blur effect. So we can use the same color scheme that they are using. And if it's dark, we will use dark. Otherwise, we will use light. It's safe. Now, if I switch between light and dark, you can see that the header is changing as well. Okay, so that is there. Now I'll say header large title equal to true. All right, now the large title is going to look like that. We can actually set the title in here for this specific screen. So I'll say options, header title, and the title is going to be gradients. Okay, nice. Now, a couple things to keep in mind. The header transparent variable, I want this to be true only for iOS and web. So I'll use the platform from React Native, and we can have this select method that is really cool. It's going to take an object of platforms. In this case, I can say for iOS, I want this true. For web, I want this to be true as well. But for Android, I want this to be false. Okay, and this looks nice. Now I'll use this header tint color depending on the platform as well. So I'll select iOS, and depending on the color scheme for iOS only, I can say if it is dark, I want this to be white. Otherwise, I don't want to specify this. I want the color default. And for web, I want this to be white. Okay. And for Android, in this case, we will leave the defaults. So the header tint color is basically the color of the header here. So in this case, it's white because it is dark mode. But if I switch to light mode, it will be the default because I'm passing on define here. Okay. So yeah, this is how we can do it. And we have this really nice animation because we're using the large header. Nice, very nice. So we have the title, and I think this is the entire configuration that we needed. Now we can go back to the gradient details screen, and let's start applying some styling. So in this case, if it is iOS, instead of 130, I'll use 150 to make sure that we are able to see the text in here. And then I'll also add a padding of 16. It's safe, and just a flex of 1 to make sure that we're using the entire space available. Okay, so that's the gradient details. Let's try to continue here. Now, the gradient details hard-coded title, I don't really like it. So what we can do is actually create an empty tag, and up here I'll use the stack from Expo router, and I'll access the screen options by saying .screen options, and then we can specify the title. the title I want it to be changing depending on the parameters, gradient name. So if I hit save, the title is going to be changing depending on the selection of the user. So in this case, as you can see, we have sunset or oceanic, which looks really cool. Okay, that's one thing. Now inside of this linear gradient, I want to use the colors, right? Inside this theme, instead of having this theme text, but inside the scroll view, I'll have a linear gradient. So from Expo router, let's import this linear gradient. Now in this case, I'll use this as a self-closing tag, specifying the colors. So if you remember, we can grab the colors from the params, but this is a string, is not longer an array. So let's convert this to an array by splitting each item separated by comma. Okay, that's the colors. Now we need to specify some style for this linear gradient. So in this case, I want this linear gradient to take the entire available space in the screen. And we can use this really nice method that comes with the style sheet from React Native .absolute fill. And just like that, we are able to view the gradients. And yeah, looks really nice. Cool. So that's that. It's looking good so far. But I want to be changing as well the direction of this linear gradient, right? And actually we can access these properties like start. And if you see here, this documentation start, for example, can look something like this. This means that the gradient will start 10% from the left. So that's a 0.1 and 20% from the top. So if we go ahead and just copy this for the simplicity of this example, and we need to pass this in an object, you notice that the gradient changed a little bit, and this is for the start, right? We can also do the same for the end, and I can paste this here. And in this case, because it is starting in the same point and ending in the same point, we basically broke it, okay? But this is how we can access these properties. So for example, if we want to start from let's say left to right, we need to start at 0 and 0, and we need to end on x1, and y would be 0, right? So that's from left to right. But instead of having, you know, these hard-coded values in here, let's provide a way for the user to do that. So we only want to provide from top to bottom, which is the default, bottom to top. So let's go ahead and create a constant variable here that is going to look something like this. We're going to have an object with the directions that we want to provide. So this is going to, so let's go ahead and create a type for the directions that we're going to be using. We are only going to have 4 options, right? And I'm defining this type with these 4 options. Then I want to type this, you know, object, specifying that it will have a start and an end of type linear gradient point, which is the type that it's expecting this linear gradient. So if I hover here, you can see that this is going to be of type linear gradient point. So that so to prevent any TypeScript issue, I'll go ahead and create an interface in here, and using this linear gradient point, what I'm doing is just typing this object so that, you know, we are using the expected type. Okay, so now we can use this gradient direction to switch between each of these and pass this to the gradient. Okay, so let's create a variable here using useState. I'll call this one direction and set direction equal to useState. This is going to be of type gradient direction, and the default value I want to be top to bottom. Nice. So because we are typing, we get this really nice autocomplete. Okay. All right, so this is how it looks. Now we have this direction, we can put it in here. So for the start, I'll say gradient directions, add position current direction dot start, and we can do the same here, gradient directions, add position current direction, and hit save. So that's the default one. Now we need to provide a way to switch between these options. So we can simply update the direction by adding some buttons. So let's add some buttons down here. I'll create a view to contain these buttons and a touchable opacity from React Native. Okay, now inside this one, I'll have some icons. So I'll import iron icons from Expo Vector icons, and I'll provide a name. In this case, I'll use chevron, circle, up. Sorry, the first one is going to be down circle actually. Chevron, down, circle. Okay, we need to specify a size, so I'll give it a 40 and a color of white. Hit save. Okay, there's the icon. It's looking good. Now, this is going to be, well, we're going to have an on press here. Whenever we press this, we want to update the direction. In this case, it's going to be top to bottom. So we can say set direction like that. And then we can simply, copy paste the same thing 4 times and change the color, and change the icon name. So what I'll do is just do that, create 4 touchable opacities, changing the icon name. And this is how it looks. Okay, same size, same color. I want this from left to right. So let's add a styling here. I'll do flex direction row. And I'll do, okay, let's hit save. And then I'll say justify space between, or we can say evenly. All right, and that's how it looks, guys. Now, let's try and press this up and down, and we can see how the gradient is updating. And we can always maybe grab a random between these 4 elements every time that we translate the user to this screen, so that every time is different. That would be a really nice feature. But of course, it depends on you. But this is how we can do it right now. Now I want this view at the bottom of the screen. And I also want to add, some text in here just to display the direction that we are handling currently to the user. In this case, top to bottom, as you can see there. And finally, I want to add the params.colors. Okay, so if I do colors, this is how it looks. But I want to replace the comma with a space like this. So let's hit save, and this is how it looks. All right, now let's position everything at the bottom. So let's wrap this into a view. Let's go all the way down here and then add a style. I'll do, quickly, I'll create a inline style here. I'll give it a flex direction row and then gap of 10, hit save. All right, and then margin bottom of 12. And by the way, this actually, I want this for, I want this style for a new view that I want to have for these 2. And this one is going to contain the absolute. So let's say weight of 100 to make sure that we are taking the entire space available. Then let's say align self-center, position absolute, and then bottom of 30. Okay, and that's it. Let me see if I remove these 2. Yeah, we need to align this to the center. And I think that looks good, but if I take the entire width, the alignment of these items would look better. Okay, nice. So this is how it looks, guys, and this is working as expected. We can change the colors, and if we go and select the new one, it's working really great. We can switch between light and dark mode. It's nice to have the light mode for light colors like this one, looks really good. And for darker colors, I think it looks better with dark mode. For example, this one, it looks really good on dark mode. So yeah, this is how it looks. Now to run this on any platform, you can simply, as I was mentioning before, you can simply press W to open this on the browser, or A to open this on the Android device. But we already saw the demo, so we don't really need to compile it anymore. This is basically what I wanted to show you guys. As you can see, we have now this validation in here for the header specific to the web. Let's quickly just go back to the layout in here, minimize this. Oops. So this is what I was saying. In this case, we are specifying the title to be white for, for web only, right? And we can change this to be, red, for example. And this will only apply for web. Okay, so let's put this back as white, hit save. And yeah, this is how it looks on web. Looks really good. We can also switch. And yeah, so remember guys, if you want to get the code for this project, go to codewithbeto.dev, check out the courses as well. And don't forget to give it a like, subscribe, leave me a comment if you want to see a video in specific, just let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.